So find out what's important to the seller before you make your offer. It's easier to find out before you make your offer than after you make your offer. Is saving $10,000 or $15,000 worth losing the house? And it may be worth losing the house. That's a decision you have to make. But it's one you need to think about before you make the offer, not after you make the offer. Hi, this is Damon Gettier, Damon Gettier & Associates, brokered by Real. Today we're going to talk about navigating a seller's market, but we're going to differentiate first the difference between the seller's market and the buyer's market. Specifically, what we're going to talk about is negotiating tips for you, the buyer. So the difference between a seller's market and a buyer's market is going to be inventory. If there is an abundance of inventory, then it is a buyer's market because there's more inventory than there are buyers, which means a buyer has control of the market. If there's less inventory than there are buyers, then it is a seller's market. And NAR has statistics on it. And they usually use 6 months as a time frame to kind of gauge what it is. But the easiest way to gauge is there abundance of homes on the market or a lack of homes on the market? And right now there's a lack of homes on the market. For the foreseeable future, I don't see that changing, as in our market, we don't have a lot of new construction. Until we start seeing more new construction, there's going to be less home starts, which is what they call new construction starting. And so there's going to be less homes on the market. So tip number one, and y'all have heard me mention this before if you ever watch our videos, but tip number one is going to be get pre-approved for a home loan. And the reason that is important is, let's just say that you call your agent, hopefully our agent, and you want to go see a home Saturday morning. And you go out and you look at the house Saturday morning, you fall in love. Like, this is the home. It checks all the boxes. Never happens, but checks all the boxes. You want this house and you want to write an offer. Are you pre-qualified? Can you buy the house? Have you talked to a lender? Do you know what the payment is? And sadly, many people, they go by what they see on Zillow or Realtor.com as what the payment is. And you got to understand that when you go on Zillow or Realtor.com, the payment they show you, the payment's only $1,100 a month. If you have an 840 credit score, that's if you're putting 20% down, you're not paying private mortgage insurance. Some buyers, that is what the situation is. Most buyers, it's not. Most buyers, your payment's going to be significantly higher. You're putting no money down, or 3.5% or 5% down. You are paying private mortgage insurance, so your payment goes up dramatically more. It's really important that you get pre-approved for a mortgage. I suggest a couple lenders. Feel free to reach out to me. I'll be happy to introduce you to them, but we use lenders that we trust. We use lenders that are local to Virginia that we trust. We know them, we trust them, and we know that they have your interest and our interest at heart. Tip number two is going to be to leverage market conditions or the home conditions to your advantage. Home hits the market today. First and foremost, we got to know what the house is worth. And to know what the house is worth, your agent needs to do a CMA, comparative market analysis. They need to look at it. They need to pull the comps and say, is this house priced in the proper range or not? If the house is in the proper range, it was listed today, and you're going to make a low offer on the house, don't expect to get it. Okay? I mean, just think about it. It's brand new on the market. The seller set a price. Their price is their expected price or their hoped for price. And they put it out there. It's been out on the market for one day. They've had 19 showings on it, and you want to come in low. Logically, it's probably not going to happen. Now, conversely, if the house has been in the market for 4 weeks, 5 weeks, 6 weeks, it's sitting there, they're much more likely to take a lower offer on that than if it's day one. Now, we always tell our clients, one of two things happen. If the house has been on the market for 4 months and it looks like it's priced right and it's not selling, one of two things happens. Either that seller priced it too high in the beginning and they're chasing the market down, which often happens, and you can look in the history of the listing and see if that's what happened. And if it is, it's a good opportunity to buy a house at a lower price. Or the people owe what they owe, and they owe more than the house is worth. And while you might think you can get it for a lower price because it's been sitting, sometimes you can't, because the seller just physically cannot sell it for less because they owe more on the property. And so we can look at market conditions, we can look at trends, we can look at listing reports and kind of give you a guide on that. You kind of play the game a little bit. So tip number three is going to be make a reasonable offer. And the reason we say this is because, again, we are in a seller's market right now. And in a seller's market, if we alienate the seller, if we make the seller not like us, we're much less likely to get the deal we want. And so make a reasonable offer. I'm not going to say you have to pay list price, but if a house is worth list price and you want it, I'd highly suggest you pay list price. If the house is worth in the range of list price, but maybe the list is tippy top, make a reasonable offer. Make an offer that you're not going to alienate the seller. You're going to get a counter offer. You're going to get something you can work with. And keep in mind, if it's a nice house in a nice location in nice condition, there's probably other people that want the house too. Is saving $10,000 or $15,000 worth losing the house? And it may be worth losing the house. That's a decision you have to make. But it's one you need to think about before you make the offer, not after you make the offer. Tip number 4 is be flexible with terms, not just price. And what I'd highly encourage you to do is get your agent, whoever your agent be, hopefully it's one of ours, get your agent to find out from the other agent, from the seller's agent, what's important to the seller. Because sometimes it's not just money. Sometimes it is terms, meaning they need to close in 45 or 60 days because they have a graduation, they have an ailing parent, they have some situation like that. Sometimes they need to close quicker. Sometimes it might be, look, I need to sell my house, we're moving over here, but I need to keep my stuff in the garage for 30 or 45 days. So find out what's important to the seller before you make your offer. It's easier to find out before you make your offer than after you make your offer. So find out, hey, what's important to the seller? What in this offer would be important to the seller? And then try to address that in your offer. It's much easier to do that than to make an offer. And then the other agent says, well, the seller really needs this. And now we're backtracking and maybe we've offended them. It's easier to have your agent reach out and say, hey, look, my clients are interested. We're getting ready to write an offer. What's important to your seller in this offer? And that's just a really good hint to help you get what you want. Tip number 5 is when asking for sellers for concessions, one thing to think about is this. If you are walking through the house, if you and your agent are walking through the house and you see something that needs to be addressed, if you see something that you know is going to be a problem with the lending, if you see something that you know you're going to want repair, i.e. the railings falling off on the deck, the back door's broken, there's 3 broken windows because they had some rough kids in the house, address that in the offer. Nobody likes to be surprised on a home inspection, and a lot of times what a seller feels like is a repair list from a home inspection is an attack on the seller. They feel like, they're asking me to do all this stuff to my house, and they saw my house when they made the offer. I don't know why they saw my house, and now they're asking for all this stuff. If you see it and you know it needs to be addressed, address it in the offer. You're gonna have a much smoother negotiation. You're gonna have much less angst between you and the seller, your agent and the seller's agent. The process will go smoother. You're not gonna see everything. We're not asking you to do a home inspection, but many times there's something that's very obvious. The carpet's worn out and you want new carpet, and you wait for the home inspection, and the home inspection says there's holes in the carpet needs to be replaced. And I want new carpet. Well, you already knew you wanted new carpet. So if you did, ask for an allowance or ask for new carpet in the offer. Don't wait until the home inspection. It just makes your life a whole lot easier if you do that. Tip number 6 is going to be maybe one of the most important ones, is don't be afraid to walk away. And while we don't ever advocate for anyone to break a contract, if the house isn't the house for you and the contract was properly written, you should be able to walk away. One thing I've always told clients is don't ever convince yourself to buy a house. One thing I've always told my agents is you had better never convince a buyer to buy a house. Like, you're the one that's got to make the payment on it. You're the one that's got to live in it. You're the one that's got to deal with it. Don't convince yourself to buy a house. On the converse side, don't put an offer on a house and then figure out whether you want it or not after it's under contract. Like, if you put an offer on a house you want to buy, and then once you put it under contract, follow through with it unless the seller's not willing to meet the terms of the agreement and of the inspections or whatnot. But I would tell you, do not convince yourself to buy a house. Don't get so desperate for a house that you just buy one that you don't really want because you have to have a house, because you don't have to have a house that much. That'd be like getting married because you feel like you have to get married, and then now you're married, so what are you going to do with it now? Because I'm married to this person, what am I going to do with them because I don't like them? Same thing with the house. Like, it's a 30-year commitment. Let's not commit to something we don't want to be committed to. So tip number 7 is going to be take advantage of extended inspection periods. And what I mean by that is this. On your home inspection, you have time to do the home inspection. And then if the home inspection says, because you got to remember, home inspector is not a contractor typically. Home inspectors are home inspectors. They have a state license to inspect the home, but they are not a contractor. And a lot of times there might be something the home inspectors say, I think there's a problem. I suggest further evaluation by HVAC, electrician, plumber, structural, foundation, whatever. I suggest somebody else take a look at it. So at that point, your agent needs to go to the other agent and say, hey, we need more time for X. Please get it in writing, okay? Because everything's time bound in a contract. So get it in writing. We're going to give you an extra 5 days, 7 days to do additional inspections for this. Not for everything, but for whatever that home inspector found that suggests further evaluation. Again, you're the one buying the house. It's incumbent on you to make sure that what you're buying is what you think you're buying. You want to bargain for what you think you're getting and make sure you get that. Number 8, maybe it should be number 1. Maybe it should be before number 1. Use an experienced real estate agent. It never ceases to amaze me me how many people are going to buy a multi-$100,000 house and then use their friend that's getting ready to get licensed or that passed the test last week. It just baffles me because those people, I don't care how good a friend they are, if they passed medical school last week, would not let them do heart surgery. Wouldn't do it. They would not say, hey, I got my 401k, I got $500,000 in it. Here, take it. Go do it with what you want with it. Go invest it how you see fit. They wouldn't do it. But they'll buy a multi-$100,000 house with someone who just got a license. And I'm not saying people who just got a license are bad. They're not. Everybody started somewhere. What I am saying is, like when we hire new agents, we have a mentor program. They can't go out on their own. They're not cowboys. They're not out there taming the Wild West by themselves. They're with a seasoned agent with experience. They have a sales manager looking over everything they do. And we do this to make sure that you, the consumer, is protected. We're not doing it to protect the agent. We're doing it to protect the consumer, because the consumer is the one that's, again, spending multiple hundreds of thousands of dollars to purchase something that they will be obligated to pay for. And so use an experienced agent. Use someone that knows how to negotiate for you, how to protect you. They understand what the fiduciary duty is to protect you, the client. So tip number 9 is going to be know when to make a backup offer. And in this market right now, we're seeing people try to get out of offers. We're seeing people do what I talked about earlier, which is just put something under contract and then figure out if they want it or not. And then some of those people are just backing out. Some things are falling through. It's getting a little bit like the Wild Wild West, which is not entirely fun. It's definitely not fun for sellers. What I would recommend is have your agent reach out to the other agent and ask, would they entertain backup offers? So if you like this house, you like it, everything checks the boxes, you've got the Thomas Jefferson close, the pros outweigh the cons, you like this house, you wish you would have had an opportunity to purchase it before it went under contract, or you put an offer on it and you weren't a winning bid. Ask the seller's agent if they'll take a backup offer. Sometimes that offer can move into primary position. And the other thing it does do, this doesn't really help you, but it kind of does help you, is if I have an offer on a house, we're under contract and it's subject to home inspection, okay? And then you put a backup offer on this house. Now, I, representing the seller, have more negotiating power over the first offer, which isn't your plan, but it can work in your advantage. And the reason it can work in your advantage is if first offer says, hey, we think we overpaid for this house, so we're gonna rip you on the home inspection. We're gonna ask for everything on the home inspection and we're not backing down. I've got another offer here, okay? And so I can say, hey, other offer, check a look at this home inspection. This guy wants everything fixed. We're not fixing everything. What would you do? Well, we'd want this and this fixed. We go back to buyer 1 and say, hey, buyer 1, we're not doing it. We're going to fix this and this. If they say, well, we're walking, we sign walking papers, you move into primary position. And so if it can work, does it work all the time? No. Does it work sometimes? Absolutely. If you like the house and you're interested, put a backup offer in. Now you need to put an out in that backup offer so that you can keep looking for houses. You don't want to wait 30 or 45 days to see if it's going to close. You want to keep looking, but you have this one here, it's sitting here. You find another house, you need to make sure you have an out clause in this contract so you can get out. And then, if you can move into primary, you move into primary, roll on. If you can't move into primary, you find another house, you get out of this one and move right over here. So a backup offer is a good idea. So that wraps up our segment on negotiating tips for navigating a seller's market. If you liked our video, please subscribe, hit the like button, and be sure to hit the bell notification so you can be notified every time we upload video. And thanks to my wonderful editing crew, we're doing that multiple times per week. So please subscribe. If you're looking for a great real estate agent, I have a building full of agents that have sold hundreds of houses. So if you want an agent with experience, if you want an agent that will represent you in your best interest, please reach out to me. I would love to talk to you. I'd love to match you with the best agent for you. I've got multiple agents that have sold hundreds of houses that have the experience, that care about you, the client, and would love to meet you. That'll do it for this segment. We will see you next time. Bye.